Well, hello. You look at how big he's getting. I don't know if you saw Sawyer in the last video or two, but he's made a few appearances. Oh yeah. Oh, he's our sweet little puppy Sawyer. This is Sawyer. Can you say Sawyer? There's a famous story here in the United States. It's an old story, maybe 100 years old, called Huckleberry Finn and Tom Sawyer. And that's where Sawyer got his name from, Tom Sawyer. Sawyer. Sawyer, say hi. Yeah, you say hi. Now I'm going to put Sawyer down on the ground and we'll see. You stay down there now. Don't make any noise. We have to do some teaching. We get to do some teaching, Sawyer. So sit down. Sit down over here. And you do what you do. Okay? And I'll do what I do. And if he starts barking too much, then I'll pause it and we'll have to figure out what to do next. Hello, beautiful children of China. It's your teacher, Timothy. Time to get the cobwebs out of your mind to learn something new. Just me and you. And woo, George. George is here. Say hi to George, everybody. We're welcoming George. And of course, down there is our friend Sawyer. And so, Sawyer, I think you should, no. Yeah, you go there. Okay, enough now. We're not gonna, and I'm not so sure about this, Sawyer. I'm not so sure about this. We're gonna pause it for just a minute and I will be Okay, finally, George, thank you for standing in for me. I had to take Sawyer up to his house. If you hear Sawyer, you might hear a little barking. You might hear him, but he's fine. He's just having to rest up there because he was making so much noise here, and we need to have school, don't we? We get to have school. So there are 5 words today. We're going to talk about one of my favorite things ever. One of my favorite things in the whole world is, can you say it? Nature. Nature is how we say that, and it means all of the world in the woods and in the sky and in the rivers and in the oceans and away from our house in those wild places, the wilderness places. So we're going to talk about nature today, one of my favorite things. Please learn all you can about nature. It's so very important. The words today that we're going to have our 5 words are, I'm going to just write them. You can write them down too. There's another one. There's another one. And here's one I already used. And finally, our last one today is there we go. There are our words. Let's go through these words, okay? And as you know, I like to ring a bell when we say the word, right? First one, this one right here, survive, survive, survive. The next one right here. Oh, it's a longer word. Ready? Communicate, communicate, communicate. The next one right here. Provide, provide, provide. And this one, wilderness, Wilderness. Wilderness. And our last one right here, superior. 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 Good words today, 5 words that we're going to use when we are talking about nature. I love nature. Let's light our candle, George, and we'll get going with our lesson. 1, 2. Well, you know about this, don't you? We don't want to use any matches unless a grown-up is around. Your mom, your dad, your uncle, your aunt, your grandma, your grandpa, your neighbor, a friend. It's beautiful, but they are dangerous. Nope. There we go. Now we're ready to start. Now we are ready. Ready, George? 1, 2, 3, boop. There we are. Okay, well, we want to talk a little bit about how animals survive in nature, because it's hard. It is very difficult, very challenging to survive in nature. Think of the reasons that it's hard. I'll tell you right now. Think of one. Tell someone in the room why it would be hard for an animal to survive out in the woods. Oh, maybe you said that there are bigger animals that are trying to eat them. That's hard. That would be scary. That's part of how they survive, by staying away from bigger animals. Another way that things they need to do to survive is to find food. To find food. That's how they survive. So they have something to eat, right? And when winter comes, when it gets cold, then how do they survive? That's the question. How do they survive? Well, here in this picture, we have beautiful Canada geese. Canada geese. And a Canada goose is a big, beautiful bird. And do you have a Canada goose in China? I wonder. The word Canada, of course, is a country that's just near Minnesota, where I live. It's up north. And the Canada goose is the one with the long, beautiful black neck with white on its cheeks. And they sound like, that's a bad, I'm not doing a very good job, but they sound like, they make these beautiful sounds that are when they go over your head. And the way that the Canada goose survives, how does a Canada goose survive in the winter? How does a Canada goose survive in the winter? Well, they migrate. This is another important word. You don't have to write this word down or learn it, but you should listen to it, because we're going to use this word a lot today. To migrate. That means they're going to move. The Canada goose flies. And look at this right here. This is so cool. The Canada goose flies. Here, this one right here. These are the ones in the front. And then they fly in this shape, don't they? They fly in this shape. It's called chevron formation. And why do they do that? Well, I'll tell you why. I can tell you why. The wind. I'm going to make the wind Let's see here. Let's see here. The wind. Let's make the wind kind of white colored. The wind comes along like this toward the first one, like this. The wind. Do you know the wind? The wind. It comes along, and this first one gets a lot of wind, but then the wind has to go around the first one, and it kind of misses the second and the third like this. And the wind, it makes it easier when they're shaped like this for the wind to not slow them down. But then you can imagine, I bet you can imagine that the front one gets tired. This one, they get, oh, I'm getting so tired. So then when they get tired, they move back. They move back in the line. And this one, then, this one right here, this one might move up to the front. They move around. You know how? They communicate. If you ever get a chance, there's that word, communicate. If you ever get a chance, I was just looking yesterday, when the Canada geese came over, they're still coming over our house here in Minnesota. And when the Canada goose comes over, I look at them very closely, and I look at just one of them. And you'll see them, they're flying like this, and then they look. And then they look this way with their eyes. They look at each other, and they call harsh and exciting, beautiful sounds. They communicate with each other with their eyes, with their wings, and with where they're flying. That means, like right now, my words are communicating with you. That's to tell you something. Geese, a Canada goose, communicates by looking with their eyes and their wings and their voice. They communicate that way while they're flying in this beautiful shape. And the shape is, they fly that way because of the wind. So with geese, here we go. There's the geese, and then you'll have one goose, right? One goose, many geese. So that's the plural, is geese. The plural is geese. One goose, many geese. And this kind is a Canada goose, a Canada geese that are flying. Yep. So we talked about migrating to survive. What does migrating mean? All of the Canada geese fly in the winter. When it gets cold, like now, when it gets cold, they fly to a warmer place. That's how they survive, by migrating to a warmer place. Many, many animals, especially birds, migrate in order to survive. There are a lot of animals that I don't know anything about that migrate. They move to a warmer place in the winter. Why am I ringing that? Migrate's not one of our words, but survive is. And when they migrate, that is their way of staying alive, these Canada geese. So that is their way of surviving. Well, I think we can look at the next picture. We've talked about migrating Canada geese. The next little guy, oh my goodness gracious. What is this? What do you call this in Chinese? I wonder. Here are our words. This is a red squirrel, a squirrel. Can you say it? Squirrel, squirrel. Now, a squirrel does not migrate. It does not go down to a warmer place. Instead, when it starts to get cold in the autumn when it starts to, the weather changes and it gets cold in the fall, the squirrel starts to really, really, really gather nuts and seeds and all kinds of food. You can see right here, that's what a squirrel does to survive. And they know that the winter is coming. They know that have you ever heard a squirrel communicate? The way that a squirrel communicates is like this. Do you have a lot of squirrels in China? I wonder. We have a lot of squirrels here. These red squirrels are tough. Oh, they are tough. Yes, and they can survive the cold winter. And they find nuts and seeds and little plants, and they store them. That means they put them someplace for the winter. Now, one really cool thing about the squirrel is that it does not store them in one place. It knows that another squirrel might come or another creature might come. And if it finds all of their food in one place, it will eat all of their food. So the way that they survive and have enough food in the winter is to put a little bit of food there, a little bit of food hidden over there, a little bit of food hidden over there, a little bit of food hidden over there, many, 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 many different places. And the amazing thing about the squirrel is that the squirrel remembers all those places that it puts the food. Can you believe that? That is how a squirrel survives. That is how a squirrel communicates. And the world, the earth, will provide, there's the next word. The earth will provide all the seeds and all the nuts that a squirrel needs. The earth, nature, will also provide hiding places, some place to put all those. I suppose a couple of the places, some other squirrel or a mouse will find it and eat all the nuts. But that smart little red squirrel has many places and they hide them very well and they remember. Can you believe that? Can you believe it? That is how a squirrel survives. A squirrel does not go away in the winter. A squirrel stays right here and it builds a warm little nest and it has food hidden all around the earth nearby. And it gets very cold and the squirrel gets very hungry. But because of their work in the autumn, because they hid all those, they can survive. They can. They can. Squirrels are amazing and they look cute, right? A squirrel looks cute, but you know what? They are tough and they are wild. And one time I caught a squirrel when I was a boy. I caught a squirrel in a net. And that squirrel, oh man, was it a wild squirrel. It was not cute. It was scary. I was scared. And squirrels are intense and powerful little creatures that know how to survive. I bet that squirrel that I caught thought that I was going to eat it. You know, that's why it got so fierce. That's a good word, fierce. These squirrels can be very fierce. They really can. That's how they survive, right? By being fierce. So we talked about the squirrel and how the squirrel does not migrate. The Canada geese, they migrate, but the squirrel stays here and it stays awake and it finds its food throughout the winter, doesn't it? Well, let's talk about another creature that stays here, that does not migrate, but it does something else. Let's see if you know what this is. Oh my goodness gracious, dearie me. Look at how cute they are. Oh my goodness. Are you serious? This is a black bear and a baby black bear right here. Can you believe it? Here's a little baby And here's the mama, and she nurses her little baby with warm milk. Now, when the winter comes, the bear does not migrate, not the black bear. Isn't that amazing? How does a black bear survive? Well, I'll tell you right now. The black bear eats and eats and eats and eats and eats and eats and eats. And instead, the squirrel, right, gets a lot of seeds and nuts and stores them out in the world. The black bear eats and stores all of it in their body, inside. And they get pretty fat. And they eat a lot of berries, they eat corn, they eat some meat sometimes, but usually they eat vegetables and fruits. In fact, let me tell you a story about a black bear just like this one. A black bear just like this one came through our yard, right outside here at our house. See if there's one there now. Is there a black bear out there? No, I don't see a black bear. Not right now. But there was one, and at that time we had our chickens out in the yard. And that bear came and took 3 chickens and ate them. Can you believe it? It ate 3 of our chickens, a black bear. So they do eat meat sometimes. They get excited. I think it ate the chickens. I didn't find the chickens. But anyway, a bear, how do they survive the winter? How does a bear survive? By eating so much all summer and all fall, and pretty soon it starts getting cold. And when it starts to get cold, the black bear finds a place to sleep. Finds a place to sleep. Sometimes they go into a little cave. Sometimes they dig a hole and they cover themselves with sticks and bushes and things that they can find. Sometimes they go inside of an old hollowed out tree or a log, but they sleep. That's called hibernation. That's a long word, hibernation. But the way that they survive the winter, the cold, is by falling asleep, and their heart beats very slowly, and they breathe very slowly, and they fall into a deep, deep sleep. They hibernate, right? In the summer and in the fall, the earth provides their food and they store it in their body, and then all winter they can sleep. They don't need food because it's in their body, and slowly they use the energy from their body while they sleep. When it's very cold, they don't wake up. They don't wake up. Now, this black bear, like a Canada goose, sometimes you'll find Canada geese in your yard, right in your yard, even in the city, right in the city. Squirrels can be in the city. Maybe you have some in the city. We have a lot of squirrels in the city here in Minnesota, right in the parks and in people's yards. Now, a black bear, though, is out in the wilderness. Out in the wilderness. Out in the wilderness. That means far away from the city, in the woods. Now, we live out in the wilderness. That's why we have a black bear. It would be very, very, very rare that a black bear would be going into the city. But look at the mother here is asleep, and she is communicating with her baby by putting her arms around the baby and her head around the baby, holding the baby warm, 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 and her body is communicating with her baby. Even the heartbeat of the mother, dum, 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 that's a way of communicating to her baby. And the heartbeat of the little baby is a way of communicating with your mother, holding them close. Sometimes they touch their nose like this. And that's how they communicate. That's kind of like how Sawyer does it too. I don't know that much about how bears communicate with each other, bears do, but we do know that they do communicate, we're using that word so much, with each other, right? And they hibernate. They hibernate, they fall asleep. They fall asleep. Now, I want to talk a little bit about fur or hair. Fur or hair. This is the word fur, and it's also another kind of, like fur is hair. I have hair right here on the top of my head. Can you see my hair? I suppose that keeps my head a little bit warmer, right? George has a little bit of hair right here. Can you see on the back of his head? And this bear, this black bear, has fur all over its body. And that fur keeps that black bear warm in the winter. It really does. That fur keeps that black bear very warm. Now, there's a kind of mountain goat that has two kinds of fur. Right close to its skin, it has very soft, fine fur that keeps that mountain goat very warm. And then in the winter, it grows longer hairs, maybe 8 inches long, that hang down. And they call those kind of, what do they call those? Guard hairs. Guard hairs that kind of protect on the outside from the wind and the rain and the fierce winter snowstorms. So they have two kinds of hair. Isn't that interesting? Now the next animal, our last animal here is, do you know what this is? Now here's this goat that I'm talking about. Here is the goat with the longer hair, the guard hair, and underneath that is the shorter hair. It's 2 inches long, and it keeps that goat very, very warm. This is a mountain goat. You can see these in the mountains out in the wilderness. And the way that they survive, the mountain goats, is with their long hair. And they can nibble and eat all winter long. Now up here is a very interesting creature, one of my favorite creatures of all time. So I'm going to write his name. This is an otter. This is an otter right here. And an otter has superior fur. An otter has the most superior fur. That means the best, the warmest fur. And an otter has two kinds of hair. Now, an otter swims in the cold, cold, cold water in the winter and stays awake all winter and can slide and play in the snow. Now, an otter has two kinds of hair. Very close to its body is the warm hair. And maybe you can see a little bit of that. I'm not exactly sure, but we might see a little of that fuzzy hair right here. And then it has this long hair like here. And this long hair is actually waterproof. It keeps the water out, and so it can stay warm on the inside with its hair. Two kinds of hair. How ingenious is that? That is how that otter survives in the cold water. Otters communicate, of course, by looking at each other and making little noises. They communicate with each other, and they play a lot. Play is a kind of communication. Communicate, that's right. And the earth provides the otter with beautiful food. It provides for them wonderful food, sometimes shells, sometimes seaweed. This is a sea otter. And these otters live in the wilderness also. They live out in the oceans and in the sea. And they have that superior coat. Superior coat with two kinds of fur. I love the sea otter so much. I love the mountain goat. I also love the bear. I also love the, do you remember what it was? Squirrel. And finally, I also love the Canada geese. Our words, you should maybe stop the video and write the words down with a pencil. Survive, survive, survive. Communicate, communicate, communicate. Provide, provide, provide. Say it with me. Wilderness, wilderness, wilderness. And the last word, superior, superior, superior. Wow, what a lesson. I just can't say enough about nature. George, you came from nature. You are from a tree. There are many trees that's out in nature. And George came from a tree. Our candle has gone out. Look at that. That means that we're at the end of our lesson, doesn't it? That's perfect timing, Mr. Candle. I didn't see it go out. Maybe you saw when it went out. Well, goodbye, my friends. It's your teacher, Timothy, signing off. Thanks for a good lesson. Now, I'm happier. You are smarter. And the whole world is a little bit smaller.